God. It's yeah, I haven't been here in this place in quite a while. It may be a year or something. I don't know. Probably a year since I've been in this secret hideout to minister from the shared truths of God's word. I don't know. A while anyway, right? So as we are finishing up our section uh, that in the best of life, section 5, we're considering God's generosity. I tell you, I would rather be around a generous person than a tight-fisted tightwad any day. How about you, right? Be around a generous person, skip the tight-fisted tightwads, right, Brenda? I can't learn anything from someone who is tight-fisted and who hasn't learned how to give or to be a blessing, and I don't think you can either. But I can learn a lot from those who give and teach and share and bless because I can see God working in their lives. So Wednesday, I ended the broadcast. I said, "Well, have a great weekend." It was not. I don't know why I was thinking it was Friday, and it was like, wait a minute. There's supposed to be one more part to finish this series up, and the part I'm doing this one section, you could call it a chapter out of this book, or a chapter with subsections. We're in section 5, part 7, the last part anyway. And as I've stated, we're considering God's generosity. Could you imagine? I like to make a smoothie almost daily, but often, a number of times a week. And I like, oh, today I'm going to have the, you know, blueberry, strawberry, banana, kale, whatever smoothie. And then I'm going to make a custom one the next day, uh, ginger and apple and uh, what else do I put in there? Oh, carrots or something. I don't know. I get different ideas and I try different things. And I made one of those. I put walnuts in it. Blended them up. Yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway, I like being around people who are generous. I like being around people who are givers because they remind me to be a giver. So, have you ever felt in your heart, Brenda, others, have you ever felt like because of the negativism in the society, and Jeannie, let's get this. Have you ever felt in society and everyone else and replay viewers that you just want to get away from it all? I tell you, I I have times I'm ready to just get away from it all, to get up in the mountains, to get by the ocean, to get by a mountain stream, right? To go into a valley and just be away because we just want to get away from all the junk in the world and get alone with God, get in nature and ponder, consider his generosity, his, as he says here, the opulence of our Father's abundant creation. Trouble is, uh, opulence for me is a word I don't mean. No, but here it is. Opulence is like great wealth, luxuriousness. That's good. The great wealth of our Father, the luxuriousness of our Father, the opulence. So there's that word, opulence. Now we know what it means. But you and I think it's just so part of us. We want to get alone and be with God. Do you know that Jesus Christ did that many times, right? He went out, departed a great while before day, and departed into a solitary place, and he would pray. He would be with the Father. He would go up into the mountains, be with the Father. Remember when they came in his resurrected body? He's by the lake, I want to say seashore, and he's cooking some fish. I tell you, there's something very wonderful, needful, and healthy and helpful for our minds to be sound, to get away, to be with the Father and with our Lord Jesus Christ, and just you and them hang out. And if it's something, if a year's gone by and you haven't taken a day or a weekend or something like that to just be alone with you and the Father, I highly recommend you get it in your planner and do it because it is very good for your life. All right, for our lives. So I love the mountains. I love the views. I love the animals. I see the mountain goats or whatever when I'm up in the mountains. I love the valleys because of the lushness of them. And I so enjoy, love the oceans and the waves and being next to a waterfall. You know, I did a broadcast 2 weeks or so ago. This double little mini waterfall. We started with a minute of that. I tell you, it's just so refreshing, relaxing. It's like you ever heard, you let your hair down, not a lot to let down, but you let your hair down and you just get with the Father and enjoy it. So, how about walking on the beach in your bare feet? You know, you go to Florida, and different parts of Florida have really different sand. Like Fort Myers has this powdery, almost like flour sand, and then you go up north near Tampa, and it's another kind of sand. So if you want to experience different kind of sand on beaches, Florida has them. So let's talk. I want to read from what he says about a single or acorn, a seed, an acorn from an oak. I pick up a single acorn at the base of a huge oak tree and I hold it in my hands. Like David in the Bible, who considered the heavens and realized how big and generous God was, I look up at the huge oak tree and I knew that it grew out of that small seed. David was awestruck by the heavens, Psalm 8:3. Jesus spoke of the wonders of the growth in the mustard seed, Matthew 13:31, where he tells about such a tiny seed and it produces such a great thing. I was thinking about banana trees because don't does bananas have the seed in 'em? They got little tiny seeds. And if you ever go to where banana trees grow, they are big out of that little seed. I've got a lemon tree I planted that I got when we were in California at the ministry event. I got a bunch of seeds and I took the best of them. And now they're like, after a couple weeks of working with them, I've got one that's maybe an inch or so tall. Life is so cool. Anyways, David, awestruck by the heavens, Jesus spoke of the growth of a mustard seed. He knew about life, fig trees, plants, different things like that. Do you know about apples and peaches or pears or oranges? Just amazing. So, of all the technological miracles that men do, look, I don't like my mouse here. It's just an okay. It's an Apple mouse. I just don't think it's a great ergonomic or whatever. I don't think it's a great design, but it works. And I had to grab it because I had to, since I'm in my new location, I had to have one that would work. But of all the technological miracles or wonders that mankind could ever produce, they can never produce something like an oak tree or a tiny mustard seed. All the technology cannot compare to the wonders of our God and his wonder working. I tell you, that's why it's so vital to get out and just contemplate the heavens, contemplate the forest, the trees, and plants, how they grow. Absolutely. Um, I don't know if you see that post. Our brother, or I have to look at, is asking us to pray for him. So take a moment and pray for our brother there. And I want you to remember that even Jesus Christ himself says to you that he's interceding for you. He intercedes, he prays, he ministers for your life. He goes to God. And I tell you, that's powerful to know. So, anyways, so these are among the messages we receive from nature. The greatest power that exists cannot be measured by an instrument, a meter. I should have brought one down with me, or analyzed or seen, but it is real and it produces, and it is at work in you and I. If we take a handful of soil and walk down a river basin, a valley, wherever, and across fields, plains. If we were to take a plant like a kernel of seed and plant it and push it into the soil, you explain an instrument that can do the miracle working of what a seed does in that soil. You know, we could pick up that soil and we consider how that God put all the nutrients and minerals and things it would need, and then the sun that would cause them to grow and have photosynthesis. I mean, this is an abundant, rich God, and He works in ways that no technology will ever be able to work, right? His energy doesn't run out. I'm sorry, the Energizer Bunny runs out. Your phone runs out. My dumb watch, I don't care how smart it is, it runs out of juice. I have to rejuice it. But God renews things day by day. He's the best energizer there ever was. So Jesus said, "For the earth brings forth fruit of itself or herself, first the blade, then the ear, and after that, the full corn of ear." There is in our hands, when we look at these things, the soil and all, the very substance that produced the corn we harvested in the that would be harvested in the autumn in the harvest season, and the stuff that produced those huge oak trees that is in just right in there in that dirt. That soil is like rich soil, good soil is another abundant element of our world that God had intended for us to have so that we could grow the great crops that grow in our world. So we begin to get the big ideas. Brother, we'll pray for you at the end here. But God is already working on your behalf because He already says He has and is. So we get the big idea. My Father has plenty. He lives in you and I. We are one and we are abundant together. When we walk beside a river, think of the life that teems and flows in that river. Of all we will teach, of all we will share with the people face to face across this planet, there's nothing like the sharing that God does when He opens His heart. His heart is open and reveals to us life. God says, I will open rivers in high places and fountains in the valleys. Isaiah 41:18. We want people to look at God's created abundance that is everywhere around us. Get out into nature, right? And with our own eyes, see the wealth that He has placed and which He connects us with. They're away from the plastic and the metal and the electronics and the buzzing, beeping noises of the world. We are hearing God's message of abundance. Sometimes when we can't hear God's voice well, maybe it's we're trying to listen to it through things instead of what He put here for us to hear Him best through. If we take a fern leaf and we pluck it and we ponder, or any leaf, a maple leaf, and we ponder the intricacies of like the little veins in it and the structure and design, its own beauty. Uh, it it transports us somewhere else that no device of men can, and we hear God whisper His message to us of life again. As we ponder trees and how each one is unique. Some trees have branches that grow opposite uh, on the same level. Some grow whatever it is, one here, one here, one here. Some grow in circles around the tree. There's so many patterns to way limbs grow on different types of trees. Amazing. Um, the Lord says, you will be as a tree planted by the waters that spreads her roots. Her leaf shall be green and shall not cease from yielding fruit. That's about us. Jeremiah 17:8. You can also look at Psalm 1. God's will is always for us to be in abundance. and for this earth to produce abundantly for us. This can never replicate, but a seed can become a tree, and that tree can produce a forest. Now that's miraculous, right? Could you imagine a device that men would make that would replicate and repeat? No, they can never do that. Only God can create in his generous love plan life around us that multiplies and increases. How incredible is that? Jesus said, "My Father is glorified when we bear much fruit." Our lives are to be multiplied among the people. When Jesus prayed, said, "Pray the Lord of the harvest that laborers would enter the harvest." Often when we're praying that, we're praying about us because he sends us, right? Your life and mine bring increase of the Father's working. When you touch people, it is Christ's hands behind your hands. When you look upon the people or others, it's his eyes behind your eyes. When you're listening to what people say, it's his ears behind your ears. And when you speak his words of life, it is his mouth speaking behind your mouth. Isn't that incredible? It really is true. So, God is glorified. Yes, Jesus said, "My Father's glorified when we bear much fruit." John 15:8. His provisions are always abundant, overflowing, increasing, and going out. That's why, if we are honest, there'll never be a shortage of food if we will just use the land as intended. It said 100 years ago or so, I don't know, let's say 80% of people, for sure 200 years ago, but 100 years ago, 70, 80% of people planted crops and stuff. Now it's like a couple percent of people are true farmers and plant the crops that's that provide for our lives. That's that's crazy. I tell you what, let's get back to the land a little bit more and get connected with our God increasingly. Look, God's message is clear. He wills, He desires, and He planned for you and I to produce lives that are bountiful, that are rich, that are full, that are complete. So His message is loud and clear. Every snowflake unique. What about every believer? Every baby's face. What there's something precious about babies, right? Oh, baby. It's like every baby's face reflects something about our creator. Every thumbprint, there's none other one like it, right? It's unmatched. Every human voice is original. I don't sound like Barry White. Love to love you, baby. Couldn't even begin to. Oh yeah, there are those people that imitate people's voices and all. That's pretty amazing. But no one matches your voice, your thumbprint, your face. And you are exclusive. I want an exclusive contract with your company to market your product or something. Do you know that you and I are exclusive in his plan because no one has the exact design and working of that plan that you have with him? We ponder nature's wealth and we pray that we can help people, we need to recognize some things. Recognize God's abundance around us. Rid our minds, eradicate stingy, negative, and poverty program theology of religion that captures and really decapitates people's lives so that they are imprisoned by the mediocrity and the religiosity of this world. Discover our big connection with our Father. Realize that material blessings, happiness, health, success, and abundance are God's gifts for everyone who believes and trust in him. Yes, Lord, help us see that he desires only good. God is our only connection that only desires good. This company that made this, I guarantee you, not everything they do. Oh, it's designed to be a blessing and good. But I'm going to tell you, I don't know that. Well, maybe Pam's company. Pam's company. You got to connect with Pam's company. Not some, you know, believer companies. But companies in our world, I guarantee you, not everything they do is planned for your good. They want your information. They want your habits. They want your lifestyle. They want to know it so they can tap into it. Facebook, Meta, Meta is nothing against it, but it's designed to get you to put more hours into social media. All of them are. Amazon's plan is not, oh, don't we have nice products? No, is that you will buy more products, right? Listen to this. He says, you will live abundantly, or you will be abundantly satisfied. Psalm 36:8. You'll live abundantly, right? Christ said he came to give us life more abundantly. You will know the love of Christ and be filled with all the fullness of God. The only way you can be filled with all the fullness of God is not some device, it is by his love. Now, no electronic or material thing can do that, what God's love can do. He will give rain to your seed and sow seed, seed to sow, rain to your seed so you may sow the ground, and the bread of your increase will be plenteous. Isaiah 30:23. I plant my phone, it just doesn't do anything. So that we would be filled with all the fullness of God. Know the height, the depth, the width. And what's the other dimension it gives? Talk about fourth dimension that's in God and in his love. Ephesians 3:19. He will make all grace abound towards you. I tell you, how would you like a company to do that? All grace to you, but God has. That you may always having all sufficiency in all things may abound to every good work. 2 Corinthians 9:8. You can only find that in him. And then we only find that in he that who waters others is well watered, right? You always have something you can give. You may think you have nothing, but you clearly have something when you can touch with Christ's hands, when you can speak from his heart, when you can smell the freshness of his life working and see the need and speak and minister and touch to that. So his will is that we live abundantly above all that we ask or can think, according to the power that works in our lives. Ephesians 3:20. Oh, thank you. Length, breadth, depth, and height. Thank you, Bob. There it is. Boom, Robert. Hey. Woo-woo. Things are happening, aren't they? Things are moving. His will, though, is that is so abundantly above all we can ask or think that you'll never think it all. You'll never ask it all. But start asking, start thinking, and watch what God does. I remember, I think about supply because part of this is material wealth, but I think of like couple months ago, 2 months ago, or 3 months ago, with Bishop Bombface, uh, and he had all these orphans with AIDS, and we planned this day that we were going to do a live connection to Africa and minister to those for their AIDS, knowing God was going to deliver him. But God had a better plan. He said, the reapers will overtake the sowers. Even before we did our ministry event to minister to them, a medical examiner had come in to just check their status of the children, and he said there was 30 that were healed. We planned, we moved, we were ready, but God was already moving ahead of us. Now that is incredible, right? And we've seen it at times in finances, on missions and different things, in traveling, where God just supplied abundantly. How else can I say it? As you it says, in him we live and move and have our being and acts. In God, we live and move and have our being. You want to find about life? You want to find about moving ahead? And you want to find about just being who you are? It is found in God and not anything man does. Think about the miracle water. Water is so amazing. I don't think there's a product, they use water for cooling engines, right? Use it for nuclear power plants. There's nothing that God has created that I know of that can take so much heat energy and absorb it and you know how it does it and absorbs it and does it, and that's why they use it for the things they do it. One of the amazing things is, as molecules get colder and slow down, atoms and all that, they get closer together. So things actually colder tend to shrink a little bit. But ice, when it freezes, expands. If ice didn't, when water froze and, and expands, if it didn't, it would actually go to the bottom of the lake. But because it expands, it floats up on top. Explain that. Hmm. So the miracle water, I follow a stream back to its beginning or to more toward the headwaters. We see that the water so often coming out of the mountains is so clear and fresh, you could drink right from it, and it'll have all kinds of good minerals, right? Downstream, you better have your purifier with you. But the water is clear, and we can see fish and the things that God has put in there. They're just moving and living. We could sit down by a boulder by the stream and take our shoes off and splash our feet in the cool of the water and just enjoy that freshness of it. And then we hear another message: water, what a miracle. Like air, another miracle. From the beginning of God's abundant creation, water has been a miracle worker. What stories water could tell if they only could talk? Have you heard that about trees? What stories trees could tell if they could only talk? Because there's trees that those are redwoods, or those, those yeah, the redwoods and the Muir Woods trees. Some of those trees aren't they thousands of years old? What they have seen. So if those things could talk, wow. Ever since the planet became the habitat for human persons, water has been the life-giving servant to everything that has life. The thirst of billions has been quenched by it, and it hasn't run out or lessened in supply. It has been transformed to steam powerful humankind things, right? The mechanized world. And it is faithfully returned, back to where it comes from to serve again. What a miracle working water. When things decay, plants decay, you think of eggshells, banana skins, skins from fruits and different things. When they decay, they turn into the soil that becomes rich with the nutrients that the plants need to grow again. Amazing. So look at this. Sewers are cleansed, clothes are washed, thousands of services are rendered, and it always returns back to the oceans from which it is drawn, back to the heavens, and purified before repeating its cycle of service on earth. God has a great purification system in distilling water and bringing it back down. Water is so much like God. It never quits. It's never ceasing, never retiring, never stalemating. No one can create it. No power can destroy or stop it. It always comes back clean and pure. Without it, nothing on our planet could live. Jesus spoke of his own life giving message: whoever drinks of the water that I give him shall never thirst, but it will be a well of water springing up into everlasting life. As I pondered water, I thought of our big connection with God. God is at work with you and me, and at work in both of us. He is our source, our supply. He never quits. He is regenerating our lives. He is regenerating us with strength, energy, power, newness, right? Because the Spirit, it says, though the outward body decays, the inward man is renewed day by day. Who's doing that? Hmm. It's healing, it's saving, it's blessing all that reach out to Him, the Spirit of God. He's refreshing, and His refreshing is always pure and clean. There's no detriment, there's no poison, there's no harmful substance in our Father's working. It always brings new life, and as an end result, everlasting life. How about the sun and its energy? When we pull our feet out of the water that we had a minute ago and put on our shoes, the sunshine comes streaming through the trees, peeking over the mountains and into the valleys. As we walk into the grassy slopes and stretch out into the sun and consider what another message of abundance. The sun, what power, what wealth, what an energy source. Without its incalculable energy, the small acorn could never grow to become a tree and then a forest. And those minerals in the soil mixed with water would never be converted into that giant oak tree unless God had planned that so perfectly. Or, beans and corn and lettuce and tomatoes and all kinds of things. Uh, or plants like an intricate fern. Or I was noticing the hostas the other day. These hostas have leaves that are like this. It's just amazing. Just amazing. Or how about rich fruit, abundant fruit, and even beautiful flowers? Would you rather walk through a field that's all dried up or one that has flowers blooming in abundance? When I was in Colorado recently, uh, on our trip going west, there was these sunflowers. Now, not like dandelions, really like dandelions. I around here we get these dandelions like this. These things were a couple feet tall and looked just like dandelions. I go, man, what kind of variety is that? I had no idea. So remember, the prophet said this: But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. There's a promise, a declaration for those of you who need healing. My brother, you need healing. We declare, in honoring his name, you and us together, that the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and the healing is manifested in your body. Malachi 4:2. Without the sun, the brook where I played as a boy could never existed, and those fish could never have lived. And without the Son of Righteousness in my life, I could never experience the wonders of his grace in my life upon and so many millions of needy people who we have witnessed. A little bit more to go. Can you hang in there? Woo woo! Never quit, never give up, never say die. I wish I could remember that little ditty or something, the rest of it. There's so much energy in our God and Him shining upon us, so much fullness of salvation to be received. See, we've received eternal life, salvation, but the fullness of it, when it's manifested, is so much fuller even now, imparting physical life to our bodies. There's so much fullness to the salvation, so much healing, and so much new life. The supply is infinite. Oh, look, I don't care how good the batteries they make for cars get to be. There will be a finite supply, but they'll find other resources to build it. Yeah, that's why I think solar is so cool. But anyway, or wind power and things like that. I know we're always going to find negatives to things. Oh my gosh, let's look for the positives and the blessings in things and get off our high horse about the negatives, right? So, are, because of his infinite supply, God's, the hope of the world, rest depends on him. And without his living presence, his grace and his mercy, all humanity would be trapped in nothingness and cease to exist, in emptiness and unfruitfulness. Without the sun, the wonders of water would have been forever trapped in the oceans. Life on our planet would never have existed. And so it is with God. We get the message. So much of God, plenty for me, plenty for you, no shortage on any hand. A single pebble. I get up from the grass and start back to the city. Everywhere I look, everything I see is pouring out God's message of what? His generosity, his abundance. I stop by the brook. I pick up a single pebble, and again I hear the message. The pebble seems dead and motionless, but it is not. It is made of molecules. Inside each one are myriads of atoms. Each one is actually a little universe in itself. Within every infinitesimal atom are worlds of electrons which move at speeds inconceivable to the human mind. Within that small pebble, there exist all the basic materials that one would find in the stars that could be, if they were examined microscopically. Hmm. So, are you and I a living miracle? So, that pebble seems dead. Really, it is a highly organized unit of physics and chemistry at work, right? Each electron separated by another in a space larger than itself. What a study in life. This pebble looks so ordinary, like nothing. Toss it aside. Yet the whole universe is at work in it. You and I are living, breathing miracles of God. So this makes us think about God at work, you and I. God, God, the creator, God the lover, the God the one filled with grace, God who's good all the time, always, right? Is the one, he is our life. You and I are the clay that he has modeled. It's exciting, right, brother? Torah. All of God's creative power is and is energizing in your life and mine. Do we recognize it and do we resource tap into it? There's the key to living the Christ filled, more abundant life. We are living miracles by the creation of God. You and I. It's amazing. It's amazing. You cannot explain the miracle workings of God and understand all the intricacies, but we can capture in our hearts that length, height, depth, breadth, and width of what he's done through Christ. That's why he's going to take all eternity to show us his goodness and things that were there right in front of us all the time, but we were blind to them. The power and energy that keeps the sun, stars, and earth in their orbits is at work in us right now. We are part of God's big plan. It is time to recognize our big connection with our Father, our great rapport and relationship we have with him, that we can count on one thing, his love plan, not the world's big deal. It is not a big deal. You and I are royal citizens, members of the household of God, a vital part, a necessary part of his kingdom. You are identified with God. He imparts to you and me, and we are energized by him. So, when we consider that Christ came, why? To give us life, and it might have it more abundantly, John 10:10. We've heard that message. We see it in nature, then we can return to our cities, our places, our homes, and we can share and tell others, humanity, about this great message of an abundant God. God never destined anybody to be worthless, poor, helpless, despondent, inferior, to live without joy, happiness, or fulfillment. We realize He has answers to our hurting and suffering world that is confused, lonely, and thinks it is forgotten. Anyone who lives lacking, that is unsatisfied and unfulfilled in God's heart, because His dream is for their lives to be abundant. Oh man. Yeah, I want to wind this up. Everything God does comes in seed form. God, I want it all right now. Well, there's times some things come big, but everything God does comes in seed form. Will you take the time to plant the seeds of His word in your heart and let it start working in you mightily? Right? Some of it, the seed brings forth 30, 60, 100 fold, some more. But it has to be planted for us in our hearts, and we have to start letting it grow. Oh, and so much of these seeds start in word form. Words, really, we say thoughts, but words that become our thoughts are the seeds that become the deeds and actions of our lives when they develop. Hmm. So we're going to need words, life words that are seeds in us that produce fruits of success, happiness, physical, mental health, joy, and material blessings. And the greatest fruit of all, salvation. And that as God's child, we've been created to have dignity, His value He puts on us, a self value that's heaven born, being a member of His royal household, and an awareness, an alertness of this working, this esteem, this power working in our lives, this joy working, this wonder working, this peace working, this love empowering. Jesus said everything was possible for a believer. I just don't believe that. I mean, I look around me and it just ain't gonna happen. You better laugh at the devil's lie and get on the railroad track, right? We're off track when we're doing that. He said everything is possible for a believer. Mark 9:23. There's no shortage of His energy, His ability, His working in our divine connection. He is the source of life that has created the universe and all that is. That great James Webb telescope out there is seeing back closer to the creation than any telescope has seen. And yet, the wonders of His working in our lives, with all that incredibleness, is even greater. That's why we're called His masterpiece. Mm. So you and I can stand up tall and we could go out and live, and we don't need to cower. We don't need to hide our message. We don't need to hold it back, because there's people hurting, lost in darkness, and there's only one way they'll find their way out, and that's if you and I share the light of truth that frees them. So stand tall, stand bold. Don't listen to the enemy's response, only knowing that you're sharing life with others. So you and I are created for as His special creation, His masterpiece. We're destined and determined, and by God's foreknowledge, previously declared foreknowledge, to have and to live life's best, because He is in you and you deserve it. So one thing you've got to do, I got to do, we have to determine to resolve to get His best out of life. Refuse mediocrity, refuse neutrality, refuse to settle for the dregs of life. No dreg. Refuse to settle for the scrap heaps the world throws out. because his abundance is for you and created for you. Listen to this. His eyes run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those whose heart is loyal toward him. Second Chronicles 16:9. Is your heart strong and loyal to God? For you, O Lord, will bless the righteous with favor. You'll surround him or her as with a shield. Do you need protection in your life? Then he is there for you. Psalm 5:12. Lord, you are the portion of my inheritance and my cup. You maintain my lot. All that you have determined is mine. I have, you and I have a good, a godly inheritance. Psalm 16:5 and 6. So I want to give you this last secret as we finish this out that T.L. Osborne has put here for us. I love it. I'm digging it. I hope you're digging it. Yeah. Don't think how good a presenter of the message you are. Just think how good the message is you have to bring to people. That's what counts. I recognize that the abundance which God has created is proof of his goodness and great generosity. There is plenty for my needs and desires and all that desire what the Father has. Since the wealth of this earth was created by our Father, it is good and not bad. It is good, I said, it is not intended for the monopoly of unbelievers, but for the use of those with faith in his love plan. It is no disgrace to be poor. It is a disgrace to believe in poverty. You know, that you were created to be poor. Now that's a lie to be refuted. God created you and I for his abundance, the best in life, and it's right for you and I to enjoy that. I refuse religious bigotry that condemns wealth and sanctifies misery. God created plenty. There's no shortage for his family. And God's love plan to lift, to heal, and bless people, material wealth has a godly, a divine purpose. As his partner, as you and I partner with him, we're co-laborers, right, with God. As his partner, we vow, we determine, we declare, we speak never to accept poverty is where we will be down the road. But to stand up, to believe in and of and for life's best, God's best, because you and I are part of his big plan, his material blessings, his spiritual blessings, everything there is your birthright, spiritual birthright to share in physically, materially, and spiritually. Take that to his bank account today, because it's the Father's good pleasure to give you something amazing, to give you and I the kingdom. All right, ready to go? Let's go. Let's live it. Let's do it. So, my brother there, uh, Brother Sinclair, um, I want you to put your hand, if you're still there, put your hand on your hip. You know, hip be free, hip, hip be restored. Hip, you respond to my voice. No pain. You be free and whole. Now, brother, you got to get up. You got to start walking around, and then you got to start running around. Okay. And anyone else with any need, we declare in agreement with what God has declared that you see that need met today or in the process of coming to pass, because we refute defeat. We refute sickness. We refute lack. And we claim the generosity and the goodness of our loving God and Father. And now I can say, have an incredible weekend with your Father, shining and living for him. God bless you richly, we can say, because he already has.